Well, hello, I'm Bob Dendry, this is Boring Guy Plays, and welcome back to Cities Skylines 2, where we are building Azure Delta. So this is the first episode I'm recording after the latest update, which introduces official mod support. So I have messed around with the color adjustment mod to, I think, make things a little bit nicer, a little bit more poppy than the sort of more drab sort of vanilla color you're used to in the game. So let me know what you think. If you think it's a little bit too bright, a little bit too garish, please let me know. But I think it actually looks pretty cool set up with these sort of contrast and saturation settings. Now, I have actually added quite a few mods to the build. Now, I won't be sort of going through in detail each of those, but I will list them out in the description as to which mods I'm actually using. But what I want to do is I want to sort of pick up where we left off last episode. So obviously we built this new industrial area. We placed down some of our unique factories. We also removed our inner city forest area, moved it to the outskirts of the city, actually added 2 in, which should hopefully mean that we are covering the capacity of that old forest area and more. And we're well on the way to emptying out this landfill. And once that's emptied out, we can delete it. We can start the process of remediating this area and hopefully building a new neighborhood here. Now, when I was going through and sort of testing out the mods, make sure they all worked, I picked up some issues with the city. If we look at our air pollution, we'll notice that we've got a lot of pollution from this new industrial area that is blowing on over the top of this hill. It's actually going to hit our new residential area very soon, which is not ideal at all. I didn't think this would happen, to be honest, because we've got sort of industrial areas fairly close to residential in other parts of the build, even sort of downwind from them, and they don't appear to have been affected too badly. But soon, we can actually expect to see some people reporting sickness due to pollution in Elizabeth Glen, which I'm not happy about at all. It's not what we want to be seeing. Now, a way I believe we can combat that is by placing down more trees. Trees, I think, are sort of the best way to combat air pollution in the game. And I think this hillside here, we're not really going to have anything built here. So I think we just go a bit ham with trees and see if we can have some impact on the amount of trees that we're hopefully, or the amount of pollution, I should say, that we're going to be placing down. We will actually get some teenage trees using the new tree controller mod. So we're not, growing everything from little babies. So I'm going to use the evergreen trees option. Obviously, we've got a lot of deciduous trees in this area, and we can see from the amount of orange we have, we're in autumn right now. And unfortunately, some of those trees will be dying soon, or dying off for winter anyway. So we want to hopefully try and offset some of that by getting some evergreens planted in this area. And hopefully when those grow up, they should hopefully help to shield some of the residents from pollution from this area. And we'll also try and get some more infill evergreen trees on the side of this mountain as well. It looks like we've had a bit of burning as well, which has probably contributed to some of the loss of protection we have from pollution. Let's go to... And yeah, we can see we've got actually quite a few of these trees are not a natural resource, which I would assume is because they are burnt out. No, I guess just not the type of tree that we use for logging. I don't know. But hopefully the infill we've done with some evergreens will help to combat that pollution before it becomes as big of a problem as I saw in my test playthrough. This sort of mess of a junction also became an issue in some of my testing, so I want to go ahead and upgrade that and hopefully solve this thing before it becomes a problem. Hopefully. So, first of all, we've got our cargo terminal over here that we can actually upgrade with an additional track. And we are going to do that because we do have 2 different lines coming in here, and we want to do our best to segregate that a little bit better. So we've got that second terminal running there. So we'll get our 2-way train track and actually give that a direct connection. In fact, what we can actually do, because it's sort of a 2-parter, this one. So what we'll do, we will just connect this up just directly, like so. Alright, so I was having some weird flickering issues, so I decided to give the game a restart and didn't realize that the color adjustment mod didn't save the settings. I thought it did. Maybe I'm just not doing it right, but yeah, it didn't save the settings, so I had to redo them. I actually forgot what I initially set up, so I think it probably looks a little bit different. Do apologize, but let me know if it is different, which one you preferred. So as we were doing, I'm adding a second platform here, which we're going to use for our outside freight services, which would be these ones. So what I'm going to do is use our train tool and shift across that. And then what I'm going to now do is take our second route, the one that goes to our harbour, and actually separate that line so it doesn't do this weird thing where it switches onto the main line then back off. Obviously that's a bit weird. So this should hopefully save us some weird conflicting movements if we do that. Once this train passes through, I'm going to just chuck on a quick pause. So we're going to break stuff. And yeah, what I'm going to do now is just lay a second two-way track. In fact, I might actually just relay both of these. And actually run a sort of parallel track. Like so. Could probably actually make them close together, but could be worse. And we're going to hit the pylon anyway. So we need to sort of just get rid of all of that nice parallelness we came up with. Alright, so we'll do that. We will add a little crossover here. But I'm hoping the route will just fix itself. Yeah, and it'll run via those tracks. Perfect. Yo, okay. Oh, that looks terrible. Actually, to be completely honest. That looks a little bit nicer. Okay. A little bit better now. So we will unpause and allow that to hopefully not break. After we removed our sewerage outlet last episode, I've just had a look and it does appear as though our poo water is slowly dissipating, which is good because the next part of our build is going to be sort of based around this little patch of paradise here, quite close to our existing gated community at Mulberry Keys. And of course, we've got some lovely shoreline that we can use. And that's great because we now have access to the beach properties asset packs. So, I mean, it's sort of beachy, right? It's like a poo beach, but it's beach nonetheless. So we are going to add on to this exclusive community with some poo beachside properties. So we have our lovely Mulberry Keys public school here, which obviously is for the exclusive use of our gated community as well as our less gated community over here. In fact, while we're doing that, we should probably add... Oh, okay. All right. Just before we do that, we're going to fix something. We don't have a district for the new area that we did lay down. I think it was a couple of episodes ago. So we are going to see if we can fix that. Alrighty, so now we've got Beechwood Crest. So we will set up this school to feed from Beechwood Crest as well, which makes sense. And then, yeah, we've got a nice little patch of paradise here that we can lay down our poo beachside properties. Of course, contours are a big issue here. I noticed when I was reviewing what I built those last few episodes ago that it looks terrible with all these cliffs. I hate it. I wish I could go back and fix it, but I can't now. So it is what it is. But I really want to make sure with this new suburb that we are, you know, avoiding ugly cliffs. Now, sometimes cliffs look pretty cool. Like, you can obviously have cliffside properties. There's a lot in sort of the Sydney area, in quite affluent areas. They're slowly falling into the ocean, all those properties. But regardless, they look cool. But I think we want to try and keep most of these properties nice level properties without any of those cliff textures. So I think we will try and level out at this lowest major contour. So I'm going to go ahead and just level out some. Now, of course, we're going to go back and smooth out a lot of this. And I do have some plans around this little bit of area here. So I actually might push that back out a little bit. But now I'm going to try and get this nice and soft. This is going to be a massive amount of houses. This is going to be quite a sort of elite sort of area. So we don't mind if there's actually not all that much housing here. Some of that's looking a little bit better now. And I do want to take probably this road here. What road is this called? It is Lindbergh Street. And have that feed across onto the sort of new area proper. And just have it try and... I think on this sort of narrow bit, we will keep it up against the contour and only have housing on one side of it. And then once we get to this area, we'll break it off so we have housing on both sides of the contour. And it would be great if we could get down or up to the school. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's give it a go. I have a feeling the slope is just going to be, it's too much, isn't it? We do definitely need alternate access to get down here. We might potentially try and weave around a road here. Just to keep it from being a cul-de-sac. I think that doesn't look... Ugh. I say it doesn't look too bad, but it does. What we might see if we can do is use our complex curve tool to fix that. And that was the continuous curve tool, so we will try that again. So if we can take this, curve it around. I've tried to do this numerous times now. So what we're going to try and do, meet it in the middle there. No, it's, I don't think. Well, actually, let's see what it looks like. It's not too bad, actually. I think I will leave it. I think it's okay. And then, sort of from here, we're going to try and get our full sort of zoning length that we can get. Make that a straight road. Use complex curves. I think that's okay. And we might even be able to get a little cul-de-sac here as well. And then, yeah, I think that should be a nice little area. It's not going to be too much built up there, but it'll allow us to show off these new beachside properties. Obviously, we now have access to use. I'm going to adjust the borders of Mulberry Keys. As you can see, we've just done. And we are going to create a new area here. And of course, that's actually going to mean that our primary school is going to be in the new beachside area, and that's okay. We don't mind that. Oaktown doesn't sound very nice, does it? What can we call this? Let's go with a nice Sydney-esque name for a affluent area, shall we? Let's go with Mosman. Mosman isn't really a beachside, but it's definitely on the harbour, so we'll go with that. I want to see if we can smooth out these a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Get rid of some of those cliff textures, what it looks like we can do. And I wonder if we might actually be able to bend this road around and go down that way. I'm just conscious of, you know, avoiding having sort of cul-de-sac-y type stuff. How does that look? It's high. Definitely it's on the high side in terms of the grade, but I think it's okay. I think it's workable. So, we've got quite a bit of low density demand. Of course, we've got heaps of high and medium, but we only have low density waterfront housing. And I want to just try and space these out a little bit, I think. So these people sort of had bigger yards. Don't know what that is. It's a tree. Bigger blocks and bigger yards. So I'm going to sort of zone these by hand, I think. I actually did start to lay down some, but I realized I was not a fan of what was happening. So I just deleted it all. Then we'll start over. So I wonder if we can get some sort of single houses in there with some space in between. That looks pretty good. I've got a bit more room once we get to here. Might get a couple of smaller blocks in there. Getting some doubles in, which is okay. Got a complaint there around power. I'm guessing they're too far from the road, so we're just going to delete them. Pretend that didn't happen. We might actually be able to just do full-size ones there. I'm starting to dig into the hill a little bit here, but I think it's okay to have like one or two where there's a little bit of digging. But overall, I think that should be some nice, carefully placed residential, and hopefully once those start growing in, we should be able to get a look at those new properties. But now we've got this little bit of Lindbergh Street that doesn't really make much sense to do much with. We could potentially build this up as a bit of a nature reserve, maybe. That might make sense. Just obviously to keep some natural sort of use cases around this area. So we might do that. We'll lay a few pedestrian paths in. Potentially connecting sort of this cul-de-sac to the school, things like that, allow the kids to get to school. Definitely seeing a bit of flickering here. So I'm wondering if that is due to one of the mods I'm using. Maybe the color adjustment mod, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you're noticing it on your end too. I assume you probably are. All right, so we've got a few connections in there, and I'm just going to maybe use our new tree line tool just to get some nice sort of manicured vegetation, as well as some sort of more fill around there. But we're going to be placing these as new trees. And I'm wondering what we could potentially do. Maybe some bushes, actually, we could pass or place along the paths. Definitely get those closer together, though. It's definitely not the best use of the prop line tool that you could have, but I think it'll look okay as they grow up. Give these guys a bit of a green, or I guess orange belt it is at this point in time. And hopefully give them a little bit of protection from the motorway. And let's have a look at these homes. They look pretty nice, don't they? They're definitely a different sort of style to what we have with our default properties. And I think some of them have a little bit of a luxury flair to them. But yeah, really nice looking properties, these. I don't know if they're worth the asking price, to be honest, because it seems like the price is quite high for what you actually get in this pack. But I think they're nice assets, regardless of that. Now, our landfill is empty. So that means we can delete it. So with that in mind, let's have a look at our ground pollution map and see how things are looking. So ground pollution is looking, pretty bad in all the areas where we had those industrial uses. That is, of course, what we sort of expect. When we're developing this, of course, we are probably not going to have residential in these areas because the people are probably going to get quite sick, I would expect. While we're in these overviews, I just want to check our air pollution, just see how that's looking. So it is, as you can see, it's starting to flow into Elizabeth Glen. I think it is a little bit less than what I saw when I was testing. So it's definitely possible that these trees that we laid down are having some sort of an effect. But yeah, obviously it's something to keep in mind that we've got this going on. So with the knowledge in mind that sort of this half of Pleasant Street and most of this area is sort of off limits for residential, what we're probably going to need to do is to build out some pads on our former forestry land and actually use that for our residential. And we can use some of these areas for things like offices and commercial, which of course we've got a bit of demand for as well. So we're going to get rid of this old parking lot, and we're also going to delete the old dirt road. And yeah, let's just have a bit of a look at our contours and see what we are faced with. And honestly, they're not actually too bad. Our major contours are fairly spread out. And that means that we should have plenty of room to get some flattened bits of land here where we can get the majority of our houses down on. So I'm noticing we've got a nice flat pad here, and we can definitely use this and extend that out a little bit for sort of the majority of this new neighborhood. Of course, this is probably a project that is taking, multiple years to get going. After all this industrial's been pulled down, even though we're saying we're just going to plop or zone sort of commercial and office in this area here, of course we would be having significant remediation type works to make sure that people could safely live there. Going to pick this second major contour where we're going to have sort of another terrace, which I think is, pretty good. We can actually probably take these quite close to our existing roads because these are such, relatively speaking, such gentle grades that it's probably actually going to be okay. As you can see, we've gotten rid of all of the cliffy stuff there. Of course, we've got some work to do around here. Overall, though, I think this actually looks pretty nice. I'm just using our slope tool to try and get some bigger grades, and that will allow us to have our roads going down between the two areas here. And yeah, we've got quite a significant amount of grid we can put down now. So let's get this residential down. Obviously, this would be happening in parallel to remediation works over here. But the residential, we're pretty much good to get started. We want to try and get as many access points as we can afford in. And that should hopefully reduce the possibility of traffic problems, of cul-de-sacking, things like that. This is going to be reasonably low density. We might go with sort of 104 by 104 type grid. And I might try and get it a little bit off axis to the existing grid we've got, but that probably doesn't work. We probably just need to go with where the flat space is, you know. So it should be fine. Got a bit of weird grade happening here, but it looks like it's very slight, so it's probably absolutely fine to do that. It looks like we're a little bit off center actually for some of these, or off of a 90. I might relay that one. See, it's saying 103. So this isn't perfectly square, and I don't know why it's doing that. If we're using the grid tool, yeah, it's still having the same issue when we're using the grid tool. So we've done something a little bit wrong here, it seems. Try it again. Okay, looks like we might have fixed the issue now. Okay, perfect. So we've got some nice gritty stuff going on there. Can maybe fit another one in. We might sort of have it a little bit off kilter, which is a bit weird, but probably adds some interest. Alrighty, and yeah, we can get some further gritty goodness down here. Looks like we can probably might do some slightly larger grids here, maybe 120 by 120. We can fit that in. Or 112 by 112. It looks like it's the largest grid the grid tool will give us. I'm sort of doing this out of a bit of laziness right now, I'm not going to lie. And we will turn off guidelines because that looks like that was affecting the grid we were being allowed to place. And I think we should be able to get some, you know, quite a few entrances here, which should hopefully allow us to keep traffic at bay. So we've got an entrance there, and I think from here we can probably make our way up the grade. Maybe. Let's try and use our slope tool to make that a little bit more usable. We want to get up to probably about here. So we're going to do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty nice. We'll make that a really medium. Yeah, I think a medium roundabout. And I think we can definitely get more connections in anyway. All right, so we've got quite a few road connections. Wonder if we can maybe get an additional one somewhere, potentially here. What's our grade there? 11. Do we need another connection between the two areas? Potentially. I think we've definitely got room, actually. Probably from here to maybe down here. What is the problem here? Oh no, that's actually fine. Turn our guidelines back on, actually. That's probably why things weren't quite matching up. Okay. Smooth this out a little bit more. quickly check on our ground pollution as well while we're doing this. It's not really going anywhere too fast. What about our air pollution? Air pollution is starting to spread into the city, which is not good at all. But we will probably need to come back and address that before too long. But I think we can definitely lay out a little bit of low, primarily low, maybe a few bits of medium density in this area here. Might even be able to get, I was going to say we might even be able to get a few more grids down. Let's have a look. Might be able to get one there. There's a 104 by 104 there, isn't it? No, I reckon we've definitely got room for a bit more grid here as well. If we push back this level a little bit further, I reckon we can still make that nice and smooth. Probably here as well. Bit less grid there. Might have a little bit of a cul-de-sac there. And now let's see when we smooth this out. How do things look? Not bad. Not bad at all. Built a little bit of bridge there, have we? All right. I think overall we've got a bit more now to work with. And I think we'll definitely look to fill out more of these areas with some more sort of forest to keep the greenery within the new neighborhood we're building up. Can you stop scratching the floor? In terms of our medium density bits that I want to get in, I think maybe along Coleridge Street, maybe the back of Coleridge Street. How are the grades there again? We can maybe grab just a tiny bit. And we can get some quite narrow medium density in there, potentially. We might lay those down first so we can make sure they work properly. Yeah, so I think we can get like 4 deep in there. Row homes. Let's see how it looks. Let's just get the one down and see sort of what pops up here. While we're doing that, we might get just a bit of low density. We might just sort of flood fill this, keep a few bits of sort of major corners like this free for some light commercial. But other than that, this is pretty much going to be lots and lots of low density residential. Got a tiny bit of pollution, but I think it should be okay. It should be abated before too long, so I'm going to take the risk and put it down. All right, so we should see a whole lot of development. We are hitting ground pollution issues here. I think it should be gone fairly quickly, so I'm going to just leave it there and pretend it's not happening. And we have left a little bit of space here for sort of community type uses, which I almost forgot about, to be honest. So we're going to get a few sort of small parks, small plazas around the place. Now, of course, we've got all of this area here, which we're not going to be putting housing down on, that we can get a few more as well. Sneak in a little community pool here, which actually perfectly fits in. We definitely need a dog park. I was a big fan of dog parks. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And we will get a little bit of light commercial in the areas that we've left free. So yeah, we've got obviously quite a large neighborhood now developing, which is reasonably connected to the rest of this sort of old town area. I think we shouldn't have any issues, or hopefully shouldn't have any issues with traffic sort of concentrating on a single roadway. And yeah, we're just starting to see the first few residents moving in, which is great to see. Okay, so we've got this medium density housing here. I think it's okay. I think we can... No. I was going to say I think it's okay, but we might actually just go row housing here, some quite narrow or shallow row housing. Just because I think the residents probably would like to be able to have a bit of a view. It's not going to be too much of a view. But they're going to get a little bit of a view for their money. And that should hopefully satisfy a bit more of our housing demand, because we do have quite significant demand for medium and high density. Now, there's not going to be any high density as part of this development though. I might take this road back a little bit. We're not actually doing anything with it right now, just to allow us to smooth out that cliffiness there. Looks a little bit nicer. And yeah, we are going to leave our single medium density apartment building, just so, you know, a bit of a relic to what could have been here. Maybe we approved this one, then decided to change our sort of planning requirements. So they just happen to have, you know, that unicorn apartment building here, whereas everyone else just had to build sort of townhouse type uses. That's all right. That's fine. Ground pollution isn't really going away. I suspect it'll take quite a long time. But yeah, I think we want to maybe redesign the grid here a little bit. There are, I think, definitely some logical connections. I think Sycamore Street, we can probably connect up to Sunnyside Street. I'm usually hesitant to have four-way intersections, but I think it probably makes sense because there's probably going to be a few people coming from Wallaby Island, you know, through to these areas here, obviously between the two industrial uses. So it probably makes sense to allow that movement, I guess. So we are going to, yeah, just allow it. It's going to happen, whether you like it to or not. Much better. So we're going to sever Coleridge Street. Now, I think some of these sort of roads that we built to accommodate the landfill, we're probably going to need to redesign as well. And just overall, the contours are not great here either, which we can see there. So we probably want to try and build out a few flat pads as well. Is this realistic? Probably not. You'd probably just reuse the existing roads, wouldn't you? But hey, is what it is, right? I just want to check, is there any area here that would be potentially suitable for residential? I mean, we actually do have a few little bits here that we could maybe get some high density in, or medium to high density. So I might sort of put a few grids here, and just see if it'll work, of course, to try and capitalize on where we can actually get people living. I'm just sort of building that there, just so we know what our limits are, I guess you could say. All right, next, let's take this major contour and get a pad down here for some office and commercial. All right, so we've got our sort of our residential areas that are sort of built there already. I think that actually probably makes sense. They probably would sort of design what they're doing around where they could get residential in, especially when we've got potentially housing shortages, which we have here as, I mean, you generally do have housing shortages, at least in Australia anyway. So we will sort of base our grid around where we can get the residential in and sort of just fill out everything else from there. I personally think that makes sense. This is an absolutely wild grid, and I'm all about it, to be completely honest. Now, what does the grid tool reckon this grid should be? Let's do it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean for your house to be destroyed or your business. I just wanted to build a new road connection. That's very unfortunate. All right, so we've got a lot of weirdness happening here. This is not at all a regular grid. Probably going to get some hate for this, and I appreciate that hate because it looks quite stupid, shall we say. But it's what I'm going with. So you're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have a lot of forest in this area, a lot of sort of urban greenery. Obviously, we're needing to do significant remediation of this area, so we would probably have like retention ponds, things like that, to keep the potentially quite contaminated sort of runoff doing what it needs to do. So I think it probably makes sense. What do we got running here? Is this a... yeah, it's a high voltage power line. We might need to reroute that. What I would like to do is add a water source here, which I think we can do using a mod. Alrighty, so... water tools. Ah, here we go. Okay. We've got a lake tool. Press go there. See how things happen. Got our lake growing. Excellent. I think we probably actually need to not have the roads going straight up to it. Probably doesn't make sense. We could maybe have a bridge over it potentially at parts. Okay, well, we got a little tiny lake there. Yeah, I might get rid of this and we'll extend this lake. Oh, stop that. Sort of across to this bit here as well. Do more smoothing. Okay, so... look, I like it. I don't like this bridge though, so we're going to remove that. It's a little teeny tiny retention pond. We might get quite a few trees planted around it. We'll get rid of the trees from inside it. Maybe? Oh, hang on. Oh, God. Oh, God, what have I done? All right, so what we're going to do instead, then we're going to get a lot of sort of bushes and things like that. I've got anarchy on, so I am placing trees on the road. Obviously. All right, that should be mostly fixed now. And yeah, so it's time to get our zoning down here. So I'm just going to quickly check again. So this block here and this block here, we're going to have our high density residential. We can maybe squeeze some in here as well. And the rest is going to be office and commercial. Might even actually get a little bit of low rent housing as well. Maybe this block here. Do we have any unique, interesting buildings we could go down? Ooh, actually, this auto trade center sort of perfectly fits in this little bit here, and it's sort of a bit of a showpiece, isn't it? What about offices? No, we don't have anything else in terms of offices. Yeah. Look at that. That's awesome. And that's sort of, as you're driving past, you can obviously see this awesome looking auto center. And I think you definitely have a look at that and say, ooh, might be cool to come in and have a look and see. Maybe we'll find our next new car there. So there we go. That's pretty cool. And of course, we've got this whole area that is going to slowly start to build up. And yeah, hopefully before too long, we will be all good to go. Nice, and that has developed quite well. We've got a couple of complaints about ground pollution. Hopefully that will resolve itself soon. I noticed the ground pollution issues here are now gone. So obviously it is abating slowly but surely. I think this looks like a nice little addition to sort of the older part of town. We've got some density here, of course. That means we're going to need to address probably some transportation needs. I was going to do that this episode, but I think we've pretty much run out of time. So that will be next episode at this point. I do want to get in a few community amenities though, just to make sure that we are covering off the demands of our residents. So we've got some space sort of along some of these main roads or main roads that, you know, we've got some usage there that we could potentially have. So we've got a decent sized park. Probably we can get a park in this area here. Of course, I don't know if you'd want to be playing in the retention pond, but I'm sure it's okay. Surely there is a connection we can make here somewhere. Maybe across here. Are they fairly similar in contours? Yeah, so maybe we could connect in here then. And yeah, that's decent-ish. No, it's actually quite nice. And that does give us a little bit of space there for a plaza. We've got some ugliness over here, but I think we should be able to solve that by not having any buildings or only narrow buildings on Elm Street, so they're not sort of butting right up against each other. But let's see what we can do. We can pull this out. We can pull this out. Do a bit of narrowing. Can we pull Elm Street out a little bit? Not really. It sort of just gives us... Oh, God. It's not terrible. We can maybe get some quite narrow, like these sort of size commercial buildings in there. A little bit of a block here that's not being used for anything right now either. That's actually reasonably flat, to be honest. Might have a couple of bit larger Low density offices loading onto this road. I think that should be okay. Yeah, I think this is quite a decent little area we've built up. How is our education looking? We are in need of some elementary school coverage, but I think potentially that might be over here where we're lacking in that. Yeah, I think we're actually okay. We've got access to an elementary school right here. I do want to lay down a few new administrative districts though. Probably get 2. Not bad. I think that's pretty much all we can get in, because obviously we do have the contours to deal with, but I think we can probably get in a few paths as well to allow a little bit better connectivity from the point of view of our residents. Well, there you go. That's about all we've got time for in this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed converting this sort of old, tired, industrial, quite early stage of our city's development into hopefully a new bustling residential district, or 2 residential districts, really. More of a single family home district for maybe first home buyers and more established families, as well as a bit of higher density apartments if that's more your speed of living. We've got some really cool, I think, features here. We've got that little retention pond we built, and we've got that unique building, of course, as well. It was also great as well to place down some of our beach assets the first time that we've placed those down. I think they look pretty cool. Once again, I'm not entirely convinced that they are quite worth the asking price. I think probably they could have gone for a little bit cheaper, or maybe to I guess for some goodwill, potentially after the sort of tumultuous launch of Cities Skylines, who maybe they could have given them away for free. But that's a discussion for another time. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you get a ding to your device the next time I post a video. You can find links to my social media in the description, so please jump on there, like, follow, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. Big shout out to my Founders Club patron, Caleb. Caleb, thank you so much for helping to make this content possible. If you want to help out at home, you can do so by joining as a patron on patreon.com/BobDendry, by popping over to YouTube and becoming a member over there, or just leave a super thanks on this video. But until next time, I'm Bob Dendry. This is City Skylines 2. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.